with Katherin Peretick. Did I get it right? Go ahead and unmute.
You did, yes.
I was practicing before we went live. As you all know, I always have a hard time with names. Anyway, one of the MPSC commissioners, and they just came out last week, Friday, a week ago Friday, with some changes. And instead of me going through all those changes, I'll let you do that, Katherin.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. I think you're probably referencing the new service quality rules, but we've been working on a host of things to try to improve the reliability for the state of Michigan. 5 things in particular. I'll focus on the service quality rules, but we've also been improving transparency on data reliability. We're performing an audit on the utilities, on their distribution systems. Number 4, we're establishing a work group on incentives and disincentives, or performance-based rate making. And then the 5th and final thing is we hosted a series of town halls following the outages to gather information from the people who are most affected by the outages. And we learned a lot from those, and we have a follow-up coming on some of the things that we learned, and some responses to some of the themes that we heard as a result of those town hall meetings. We had over 400 people, I think about 450 people show up for those town hall meetings on my count, with over, I think, 140 people giving comment on the power outages. But I'll start with the service quality rules because that's one of the major changes that we were able to put into effect at our last commission meeting, and actually issue these orders so they can issue the order to make the rules official. So as a part of our job at the Michigan Public Service Commission is to issue these standards for utility distribution system service quality and reliability. So, what standards do the utilities need to be meeting, and then evaluate have they been meeting those standards. And those standards include things like unacceptable customer restoration times. So how long can you be out during different conditions? So during normal conditions, or during catastrophic storms like we experienced as a result of the ice storms and the very heavy snow that you were referencing at the beginning. So we'll take that one first. So these unacceptable customer restoration times. The old rules used to say that for these catastrophic storms, you had to be restored within 60 hours. You had to restore 90% of customers within 60 hours. And now we've reduced that to 48 hours. We've also reduced the time for wire down relief. So if there's a live wire that came down as a result of a tree branch falling on it, for example, we used to have for a metropolitan area, it used to be 240 minutes that was acceptable for the utilities to guard that wire, and now it's 120 minutes, so cut in half. We're becoming a little bit more strict on this. And then one of the changes as a result of these service quality rule updates that I think has gotten the most attention is the outage credits. So if you are out of power for a certain amount of time, you get a credit to your bill. And that credit used to be $25 after 120 hours of being out of power during these catastrophic storms. But importantly, you had to actually go to your utility and ask for that $25 credit. What we have changed as a result of these new rule updates is that time is reduced. So now it's 96 hours. And the credit amount has gone up to $35 indexed to inflation, which is important these times, plus an additional $35 for each day that you're out. So you get $35 for each day over that 96 hours, and it's automatic. So you no longer have to go to your utility and fill out a form and request it. It'll automatically be on your bill.
Okay. So one of the things that was most frustrating to me during the late February outage was the fact that I would check the DTE outage map, and as I said, I was without power. The ice storm had ended. I thought we were going to skate and not have a problem, but it went out at 9:30 p.m. that Thursday night, and I checked the DTE outage map, and they initially said that restoration is expected by Friday, and then they said that restoration was expected by Saturday on Saturday, and then they said restoration was expected on Sunday, and that's when the power actually came back on. Is there anything we can do to make those estimated restorations, any carrots and sticks we can use to make those more accurate? Because clearly they thought they were going to fix the problem, a lot quicker than they did.
Yeah. So I also lost power for 2 days during that storm, and had that same experience that you did. So I feel you. And that was actually a theme that we heard pretty extensively as a part of the town hall meetings that we held. That was like one of the most common complaints that we got was that, like, okay, I understand power goes out sometimes. This was a big storm, but can you please just tell me when it's going to turn back on?
Right. So I know if I need to go out and buy more dry ice or something. Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, exactly. So that's something that we want to explore as a part of a technical conference that we're going to host at the commission in the next month. I think we're trying to host it end of next month to explore some of those communications about resiliency and about getting your power back on. And it's something that we are working with the utilities on, because there are some technologies that our utilities are installing that should be able to make this communication and this restoration estimate a bit more streamlined and a bit more accurate. So yes, we definitely hear you there, and something that we're pretty focused on.
I know the utilities have this fix-it sharing program with all these other states. And I know that they were prepared for this, because actually I was in Lansing before the ice storm and just got back to Ann Arbor, and I was near an area where there was like a staging area where all the bucket trucks were. So I know they were trying to prepare, but I guess my question is, I've also heard rumors that one of the things that I think it was DTE said during a shareholder meeting was they were cutting costs. And I'm wondering if they were cutting costs by cutting personnel and maintenance people or whatever. What was the situation with that?
Yeah, so especially when there are larger storms that cover a larger territory, everyone's fighting for those same contractors, right? Like trying to bring on those they call mutual assistance crews, where some utilities will go and help each other when there's a storm. Our utilities are trying to try to use those, and then they also try to go help other areas when they get hard hit. And one of the things that we're seeing more frequently these days is utilities are needing to share these mutual assistance crews more often, and they're becoming more pinched. Everybody wants them because we're getting more frequent storms that are larger and hitting more of the area. They're not as concentrated as they used to be. They're more frequent and they're more widespread. So I think that's something that we really need to be focusing on with our utilities, and making sure that we're planning for these more intense and more frequent storms. They're not unpredictable anymore, right? Like these large storms are becoming more predictable, and we need to become more prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, that darn global warming hoax. Okay. Anyway, one of the things that people also complain about, I'm sure you heard a ton of this at the public hearings as well, was tree trimming and lines down on trees in older areas where the power lines aren't buried. My son bought a house a few years ago south of Ypsilanti in a subdivision that was built in, I think, 1979, and he has underground power to his house. My house in Dearborn, on the west side of Dearborn, was built in 1941, just before the war, and I've got a power line that snakes through a bunch of trees, that grow up in the easement where the alley used to be, behind the houses. What can we do about that, given the fact that so many people love trees and love to see them grow? In my case, the outage in my neighborhood, the DTE outage map actually said tree on private property brought down power lines. So, they're getting very specific about this isn't our fault. This is on somebody's private property, right? So what can we do about that? I mean, you can't just barge into people's yards and start hacking down trees, or can you? Or should you?
Well, tree trimming is a big part of what one of the tools that the utilities have to help reduce some of these outages, and yes, the utilities can go onto your property and cut down trees. They do that. Matt, I have exactly the same situation. My house was built in 1952, and we have overhead power lines running through our backyard. So they do come into my backyard every 5 years and cut the trees, so the branches aren't overhanging the power lines, and that's one push that our utilities have been making, is increasing that tree trimming frequency to be on that 5 to 7 year cycle to keep ahead of it, and doing more of it. So I'm going to give you one statistic. So customer interruptions, so outages on the DTE system, this is just specifically for DTE because I'm giving you one example here, so for that enhanced tree trimming program, that 5 to 7 year cycle, outages were reduced by 74% in the first year on circuits that were trimmed. So tree trimming really does work. Undergrounding also works. So moving the lines underground. However, that is very expensive depending on where you're doing it. Estimates from $250,000 a mile up to $3 million a mile, depending on what it looks like. Are you in a densely populated area? Are you going through people's backyards? What sort of utilities do you have underground? It's quite expensive. Now, there could be areas where it might make sense to do that, even if it is expensive. So we're hoping that we'll find some strategic locations for undergrounding those wires to help with reliability, combined with the increased tree trimming.
We're coming down to the last minute now. You were mentioning there's some more town halls, I guess, coming up. Do you have the date on that yet?
So the town halls we've already hosted, but we do have an upcoming technical conference on resiliency that we will be hosting. We haven't announced the date on that yet, but we expect to announce the date at our next commission meeting, and that will be available for anybody to participate in, and it'll be open to the public.
Okay, and at the town halls you did host, nobody came with pitchforks or torches or anything like that, right? So
we definitely heard from a lot of people who were upset, but rightfully so. It's hard to lose power for extended periods of time. When the power goes out, the people lose. They lose food in the refrigerators. They lose medicine. They lose money for having to stay in hotel rooms. It's really a hardship. And we wanted to be able to hear those experiences and understand what those hardships were, so we can be working with the utilities to provide better reliability and resiliency for our state.